it does mean that you have to give up a piece, right? Like, it's got kind of a really weird call to have to make with something like Final Gambit, because you only get a chance to do that once, and then you're down to just 3 Pokemon. But I can see a world maybe you help to use the Annihilate to get something else in, but I am very curious as well whether or not we even see the Dondozo and the Tatsugiri in this matchup. Because, you know, while the Dondozo has 3 attacking moves, like as Wave Crash, Earthquake, and Order Up, you have to be able to position those in a way that's going to make a lot of sense. So as we get into this game number 1 between Matt and Ofomezie, we do see the Dragonite and Annihilate here for Mezi, as well as the Sinistcha and Hariyama for Matt.
Yeah, so Sinistcha's hit the field. Hariyama, though, in an awkward spot. It's got that Fake Out, but you're up against the Inner Focus Dragonite and the Annihilate, which is Ghost Terra, or not Ghost Terra, Ghost typing. So you won't be able to actually click Fake Out and flinch either slot, which is really tough, because one thing that Ofomezie can go for is you can Final Gambit, or you could just go for coaching immediately onto the Dragonite, and then Dragonite can go for a super effective, for example, Ice Spinner into the Sinistcha slot. So you can see Matt considering the swap in there to potentially take that. And yeah, Knockoff here will be able to at least remove an item, but it's a really good lead by Ofomezie to block Fake Out being able to flinch on turn 1.
It's going to force Matt into this position where it's going to be the King Gambit now taking the field instead of that Sinistcha. So it's able to come back in and maybe get something else off a little bit later, but notably is Heat Proof. It's actually not going to end up being able to give any Hospitality healing over, which is what we can typically see on a Pokemon like that. Ofomezie is going to go ahead and put the foot on the gas. It is the Terra Flying Dragonite to go for something like a Terra Flying Terra Blast.
Yeah, Terra Blast here just so strong. With the Assault Vest set, being able to switch her moves is so valuable as well. So there it is. Terra Blast coming out. Does it go into Sinistcha? It does not. So Hariyama is just going to eat that up. That's a one-hit knockout immediately. And I think Ofomezie with the perfect lead and perfect turn 1. And there was honestly very little Matt could do to counter that. And I mean, Sinistcha's just coming back out, but you could just go for another coaching right now.
And I don't even think a defensive Terra into the Fairy type would be enough to save it. It's not necessarily too safe in the face of these Pokemon. King Gambit does technically have an opportunity here to be able to get the better of something like the Dragonite, or at least get some damage down. So we are actually going to see this Terra Fairy onto the Sinistcha, just hoping that it's going to be able to stick around.
Yeah, let's see if it's defensive enough. I mean, this Dragonite at least does not have something like Choice Band, and so Sinistcha often is very, very bulky, but it's very free to just go for a second coaching here onto the Dragonite. A Dragonite, of course, could launch a super effective attack into the King Gambit, but will just offer the safe Terra Blast and wants to deny Trick Room. So can Sinistcha survive right now? Let's see. It is able to survive. Okay.
That's a really big deal. It's going to give a little bit of breathing room for Matt's King Gambit to actually get a Sword Stance up as well. But notably, kind of a secondary effect of coaching is the fact that this Dragonite now also has +2 to its defenses.
Yeah, so you can just go for an extreme speed here potentially to finish off the Sinistcha. You can see the strengths out there. If you don't go for extreme speed and you opt for something like Stomping Tantrum instead, then Sinistcha can heal against the Dragonite and decrease your attack. So I think extreme speed here probably relatively safe to launch into Sinistcha. Once again, Matt doesn't have Protect on any Pokemon on his team, right? So it was a big turn to get the Sword Stance off. The Annihilate now caught into an awkward spot, but and it's kind of forced to switch. But Dragonite's just looking so powerful right now.
Oh, it is going to be King Gambit as well. Taking a look across the way at its counterpart. And this King Gambit does not have Sword Stance here for Mezi, but you can see this extreme speed, the perfect counter for this Sinistcha, just not being able to actually get those moves off. Matt, just like that, down to the final 2 Pokemon in this first game.
Yeah, so the Kowtow Cleave here, boosted at +2, does okay damage in a Dragonite, but you're still down so much, right? And once again, the scary thing here is there's no Protect, right? And so, for example, the Dragonite can just launch Extreme Speed into Primarina. And then one of the things I'm curious about is the King Gambit versus Primarina speed interaction here, right? And there's a chance that King Gambit on the opposing side is actually faster than Primarina under Trick Room. So you can definitely Extreme Speed into the Primarina. You can also consider with Dragonite saying, you know what? I think you're not actually going to knock me out. You're scared of my King Gambit. You can go for a Stomping Tantrum on a Gambit. It is, you know, if Matt is actually able to pick up like 2 quick knockouts, like Annihilate is awkward, right? Trick Room is up, it's just going to get demolished if it comes out before Trick Room expires, but I think this is a really key turn. Is Matt able to survive with both Pokemon right now?
Which is tough because, like, on the one hand, you do have the +2 to your defenses on Dragonite, but it's going to be the extreme speed into the Primarina. But is it going to be the Kingambit that gets a chance to move first? Kowtow into the Dragonite is not enough to actually pick it off.
Yeah,
but
it's slower.
Kingambit's Iron Head is going to finish off this Primarina before it even gets a chance to move.
Yeah, exactly. And so once again, with like no ability to protect anything, it's very easy to just double up onto slots here. So even though Trick Room was set up, Ofomezie bringing out that Kingambit at the perfect time, playing it super well. I think just great to realize, wow, this Sinistra completely counters my Dondozo, so I don't think I should bring it out. Like, I'm just going to rely on all the other Pokemon on my team. And so just going for, you know, the not very effective attacks, but Kingambit's still under 50% at this point.
Yeah, the crit too is going to definitely help as well. You see at the +2, it's going to do a meaningful amount of damage to Mezie's Kingambit, but you still have to contend with this Dragonite that can go for extreme speed, so you cannot Sucker Punch that Pokemon, and it should just be a matter of time before we do see Mezie pick up this first game.
Yeah, I think the lead just gave Matt such a tough position to claw out of. The identification of Annihilate plus Dragonite was just really, really smart, realizing, hey, like, I can just get free coaching boosts right now, right? And the Sinistra, like the Flying Terra Blast is also just so consistent across the board here. I think, like, we saw Assault Vest Dragonite in the previous round. It is in a really good spot in the format right now. Normally, people like using that Choice Band, but with Choice Band, you have to commit to locking into an attack. With that Assault Vest, you have the flexibility of switching moves, which is really nice. And so that lead in itself, I think, is just really scary. Now, one of the things you can do if you're Matt is say, well, okay, I don't think Sinistra was actually that good in this matchup because you didn't bring Dondozo, so let me drop it. And then Mezie could actually end up bringing Dondozo, which would be wild. But I think the Annihilate combos are just really scary. So I think if you're Matt, you have to go back to the drawing board and say, I need a lead that pressures Annihilate plus any physical attacker a little bit more.
What's really nice, like, because even if you lead something like the Kingambit, because you go, oh, well, why don't I just, like, Sucker Punch that slot? Well, coaching is not an attack, so you can't use it against that. And similarly, you also just kind of still, maybe, like, Mezie can play around that and go, well, maybe I just close combat you instead.
Yeah, I think the answer if you're Matt is the Electabuzz. Electabuzz here can go for Follow
That would
Me
be awesome.
to obviously redirect coaching away. You can also go for Ghost Terra if you think Final Gambit's going to hit you. So let's say you were trying to counter the exact lead that you just saw from the previous game. I think Electabuzz plus Primarina specifically would be really nice because you can go for Follow Me. Primarina can just go for Choice Specs Dazzling Gleam, which does so much damage immediately. I think, yeah, Hariyama Sinistra is basically such a tough combination into specifically Dragonite plus the Annihilate, right? And this is one thing that's really valuable in this format. Like, Fake Out is fairly common, normally from Pokemon like Incineroar or Rillaboom, but if you have a Ghost type, if you have Ghost Terra, if you have Covert Cloak, you have Inner Focus, there are a lot of ways to mitigate Fake Out actually being able to flinch on turn one, and Mezie found that lead combination. And so, yeah, I'm curious if Mezie decides to go with the same. I think for Matt, if you do want to mix it up, yeah, I'm looking at Electabuzz being brought out, and either something like Electabuzz Primarina, or you could even go like Electabuzz Sinistra to set up that Trick Room, and then go from there.
Yeah, I like that Electabuzz also has Taunt and Eerie Impulse, so two just really good supportive options to have next to something like the Primarina. I think you would love to have the Eerie Impulse just to make sure that something is going to take more damage. And the Taunt as well, if you end up seeing something like Clefable, for example. No more Helping Hand, no more Follow Me. Just some really nice ways to be able to protect that partner. But yeah, Electabuzz most notably here, for those of you that might have missed the team sheet, it is Vital Spirit, which doesn't necessarily help in Mezie's matchup here, but it is just notably not actually static.
Yeah, I think I'd be surprised if it got left out for this game, honestly, because I think like when you're using no protect on anything, and it's the same lead here, so let's see, is it the Primarina? The Primarina is led here. It's not going to be the Electabuzz though, so this is still kind of scary, right? Because you are still threatening the turn one coaching into Terra Blast, but Sinistra could Terra. Primarina might be bulky enough to survive the +1 Terra Blast as well. You do have to worry about Final Gambit just coming out immediately here as well, right? So, but, you know, I like the Primarina lead. I think Hariyama just had no offensive pressure whatsoever. I'm curious still if Electabuzz is in the back, but yeah, you know, when I was suggesting Primarina plus Electabuzz, the idea is that Primarina at least exerts so much offensive pressure right now against both of these.
Yeah, well, it's got to be a Terra commit here. Otherwise, you are in danger versus this Dragonite, and you are also not going to feel too great about having to take something even like a U-turn from Annihilate. So it is going to be the Terastallization for this Sinistra at the very least.
Let's see, I think just not bringing Hariyama as a lead and leading Primarina this time already makes this a much stronger field state for Matt. Turn one is still scary, right? Annihilate has a lot of options. There's that U-turn you mentioned, there's Final Gambit, there's coaching. So we're going to see both players trade Terra. and it feels pretty necessary here. I think from Mezzi's spot, you don't 100% need it just because you've got the Assault Vest, but going for that Terra, of course, now enables you to go for that Terra Blast.
Yeah, and we saw, though, that it wasn't necessarily a one-hit knockout onto the Sinistra, especially when it did end up having a coaching boost. So this Sinistra should be relatively safe this time around.
Yeah.
Not too bad to have. Maybe you can actually go for something like a Matcha Gotcha and try to get the burn here. But the Terra Blast into this Primarina is just a one-hit knockout. This Primarina was not so bulky after all.
Yeah, I was really curious about that. I wonder if it was a damage roll, but Primarina is such an important offensive option in this, and so losing that is definitely tough because, look, it's two physical attackers in the back, and no Electabuzz once again. And so King Gambit comes out now. The Annihilate caught into an awkward spot, but Dragonite's still threatening with so much damage, right? You do have the strength sap to at least decrease the damage output of Dragonite, but and the Dragonite here, its moveset is Extreme Speed, Ice Spin, or Terra Blast, Stomping Tantrum, so there's no low kick at least. But this is still really scary, right? Because how are you going to deal enough damage to that Dragonite? It already has that defense boost. So Primarina, I think, being such a pivotal Pokemon here, exerts some pressure away, but I think Electabuzz Sinistra would have been able to maybe set up Trick Room, and then you have Primarina in the back. So let's see. I think, yeah, Matt's at least got to start going for some Sword Stances. At least you know the Annihilate slot on the opposing side can't really do too much other than go for another coaching.
Hoping for the burns onto both of these Pokemon.
Oh!
And there's no burn! Oh, no!
No burn comes out, and this Dragonite is free to just launch Stomping Tantrum, +1 attack into King Gambit. It's going to deal super effective damage here, and coaching just comes out once again. And so now this Dragonite at +2 defense, there's no redirection from this Sinistra as well. It's a really, really difficult spot, especially because, of course, this Sinistra can't even deal damage into the Dragonite. So, I mean, that turn 1 survival or knockout was huge, right? If you get the survival there, then you at least get damage off. So, Annihilate's finally going to pivot out and say, you know what? I have coached my Dragonite enough. I think it's ready to fight the battle. Clefable comes out here as well. Matcha Gotcha is going to come out. You're still looking for that burn, but to be honest, even with the burn, I'm not sure it's going to be enough here. So let's see.
It's no burn either. I mean, the King Gambit still gets a chance to move. No extreme speed coming out from this Dragonite, but it's going to be the Stomping Tantrum just to finish the job. That burn would have been critical to have 2 turns ago, but now you get this Clefable on the field next to this Dragonite, so even if you are able to launch any attacks, Clefable gets to follow them away.
Yeah, and the Hariyama just hits the field, but Flying Terra Blast is just so strong into this team composition. There's the Matcha Gotcha, there's a Strange Slap. This is inner focus Dragonite, so you can't even flinch it with a Fake Out here, so it's pretty free to just launch a Terra Blast into the Hariyama slot right now, I think. Clefable can just go for something like Follow Me plus Terra Blast here, I think relatively safe. So you're hoping for the burn here, and yeah, you can see Matt deciding, you know what, I might as well try to just knock out Clefable with the Heavy Slam here, or maybe hope that there's a mistake on the opposing side. Clefable protects for some reason, and you get the knockout with Heavy Slam onto Dragonite, so I like the target there, but Follow Me here, always really safe. Unfortunately, Sinistra not being able to get those burns made this game so much more difficult.
Well, the Heavy Slam first, still not enough to knock out this Clefable, but the Matcha Gotcha maybe this time around, can you actually get the burn? Would that be enough to save your Hariyama?
You need it right now, but it doesn't look like it.
Oh, this Dragonite has just been able to get KO after KO in these sets. Terra Blast into the Hariyama was enough that first time around, and it's going to be enough for the second.
Oh, this poor Sinistra tried so hard, but wasn't able to get a burn a single time. A burn at any point would have been really crucial, right? Because it just drastically decreases the damage output of the Dragonite. And yeah, I think the thing here is basically the Sinistra set really clever in dealing with Dondozo. Mezzi recognizes it's just too good into Dondozo. It's a bait to bring Dondozo, right? Like, Matt really wants Dondozo to come out, and Sinistra, while was able to set up Trick Room, like, there just wasn't enough damage on the opposing side, and yeah, like, the Annihilate lead was just so scary when paired with Dragonite. Extreme Speed just does so much. Matcha Gotcha, even a miss here.
No.
Dragonite said, I am not getting burnt by you today. Chips away at the King Gambit.
King Gambit doesn't even get burned either.
Healing, yeah.
Oh man, yeah, the Iron Head plenty into this Terra Fairy. Matcha tried its best. This wasn't the right cup of tea this time around.
Yeah, I mean, the Annihilate plus the Dragonite combination was just a little bit too much here, and I think Charge Sky for Annihilate is really cool, right? Because normally you're using it just for that final gambit, but coaching just unlocks so many more options. And in this game, it was so relevant not only for the attack boost, but also the defense boost. Being able to survive these physical attacks from the opposing side was a really big deal. So yeah, I think like Matt had some other options that he could have maybe explored in that, especially if you're expecting the same lead, right? So like Electabuzz was something that I wanted to see. I thought Electabuzz pre-Marina is interesting